Hello there guys, welcome back to another video. It's Friday, or podcast actually, depending on how you're watching or listening to this. It's Friday though, which means one thing: it's time for another episode of VGC Off the Record, where we try and deliver you some of the most considered, informative takes on all the big news from across the week of video games. And alongside me, I'm your host Steven McInerney. I've got the two Chris's, which is not a thing that's a thing, but it is now apparently. I got the tired old hack himself, Mr. Christopher Scullion. How are you doing today, Chris? You alright?
Yeah, I'm good. I've just been watching the Olympics opening ceremony and enjoying a greatest hits of Japanese video game music, which I wasn't expecting to say today.
Okay, what's been played so far then? What's been played?
A bit of Sonic, a bit of Starlight Zone from Sonic, a bit of Monster Hunter, a bit of Final Fantasy, a bit of Dragon Quest, a bit of Pro Evo, which was interesting, which I'll kind of come up later.
It's not called that anymore, of course. It's
a bit of eFootball,
yes.
I mean. And yeah, some interesting... Some deep cuts as well, like the Tales of series appeared at one point and stuff like that, so that's interesting. So, but yeah, I'm sure
I can't believe I've not been watching it. That's probably the one opening ceremony I'd want to watch in Tokyo. That's a bit of a shame. But one guy who was also not watching it, because he's here alongside us, is the man behind the numbers over at GamesIndustry.biz, Mr. Christopher Dring. Dringo, how you doing, man? You good?
I'm all right. Yeah, I just somebody introduced me as the man behind the numbers in a meeting a couple of days ago, and I thought I can tell which podcast you listen to.
Was that because of this?
Yeah, I apologise. I'm the only one that calls me that.
Oh, brilliant! We've found the listener.
That's brilliant. Was it my mum by any chance? Or my best friend? That's interesting. It'll stick. I'm going to make sure it sticks eventually. One day, 2 years from now, it'll be your Twitter bio, and that'll be it. And that's when it's stuck. But I'm trying to make it a thing, so it will be. I need to give myself a nickname. The Chancer. That'll do. Anyway, this is VGC Off the Record. Of course, we go every week. We deliver all the big news stories and go through them here on VGC Off the Record. You're watching currently on the YouTube channel, or you're listening to it on one of the major podcast providers. You can find us there every Friday afternoon. Today we got absolutely loads to go through. Of course, last night there was a big EA blowout during their EA Play Live. We've got a little bit of that to talk about. Netflix doing the Netflix thing and getting involved in loads of things. And of course, as we hinted at earlier, PES, rest in peace. Rest in peace, PES.
We'll get rest in PES, surely.
I never call it rest in PES. Wow. If you want to unsubscribe and not stop listening from here, I take the worst jokes on that. I can't take the moral high ground here. I don't understand either way, though. And of course, in a bit as well, towards the end, we're going to get onto Chris's opinions on Switch Online and how actually maybe some of us are wrong on this. But we're going to start initially with EA Play Live. I'm going to start, of course, though, with a big reveal. It's a shame it wasn't a secret, because obviously, if you've been following the news, it was kind of confirmed that Dead Space remake was coming, but it was confirmed last night in a very, very... I really love the setup for what it's worth. I think they really nailed that. The setup during the actual showcase where they showed the black kind of corridor and then they went into it. It was very nice. But anyway, I'll read from videogameschronicle.com. Electronic Arts have officially announced that it's working on a Dead Space remake. The teaser trailer below rounded off, which is not below, but it will be if you're reading on the article, rounded off the publisher's EA Play Live showcase on Thursday. It's confirmed that the game is in development at Star Wars Squadron studio EA Motive for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. EA said Dead Space is being developed exclusively for next-generation consoles and PC, raising the level of horror and immersion to unprecedented heights for this franchise through stunning visuals, audio, and controls powered by the Frostbite game engine. Fans will experience an improved story, characters, gameplay mechanics, and more as they fight to survive a living nightmare aboard the desolate mining starship, the USG Ishimura, all while uncovering the dreadful mystery of what happened to the slaughtered crew and ship. Dringo, what did you make of this reveal? Are you excited for a returning Dead Space? Were you a fan of the originals?
Yeah, I loved the original Dead Space. It was a great reminder that what I find really funny is it was an era where Capcom was unsure if horror was the direction they should go in, and they were going with Resident Evil, they were going increasingly action oriented, and then Dead Space came along and just reminded us that actually a great horror game can do really, really well, and then Dead Space went in the same direction over time. But the original was a AAA horror game at a time when there weren't a lot, and it was really wonderful, and it sort of made the career of Schofield and all the people that went on to work on Sledgehammer and Call of Duty and stuff. So I loved it. It was I'm delighted it's back. And also I'm pleased because we're seeing increasingly now, because of the way games are being made today, with so many service-based games making so much money, you're seeing a lot of sort of bigger companies that wouldn't normally invest in a game like this going, it doesn't matter, we're making tons of money out of Apex Legends, we can do a Dead Space or a Command and Conquer. So it was really pleased to see, because EA could just go fully on with Ultimate Teams and all that kind of stuff. That's where they make their money. But so to see them doing stuff like this is great, and I'm excited to see it come back. The only disappointment was the lack of a date, which I imagine means that we've got a bit of a while to wait. But yeah, it was great.
Yeah, likewise. I thought it was really interesting. I really liked the tone as well. I mean, fair play to EA, actually. Obviously, It Takes Two is one of my games of the year. That's EA published, wasn't it? Have I made that right? And then Fallen Order last year was that they put money into that, and it was a good, fun game. Wasn't a perfect game, but it was good that existed. And they're putting money back into Dead Space, which is and I was really excited. This is a selfish thing. There's a gamer confession here, but this is, and I feel sorry for anyone who hasn't got a next gen console. Fingers crossed, by the time this comes around, anyone who wants one will have a chance to get one. But on a personal, selfish level, as someone who owns a PS5, I'm kind of excited it's next gen only as well, just because I want to see how far they can push, the engines and so on. I mean, I know it is cruel, and I don't want to gatekeep and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to say, because you do want to see how the next gen consoles can say. Were you surprised, Chris, that it was next gen only? I mean, what's your take on that? Am I being a little bit selfish there, or whatever?
No, I'm not massively surprised, but I think mainly because. Like Dring was saying, that the fact that the trailer didn't show a lot of much maybe suggests that we've got a bit of a wait for it, and therefore you would imagine it's going to be next gen only, because by the time it comes out, it's going to be in that stage where the kind of the ties are finally cut on the previous gen, and the majority of stuff that comes out whenever this is coming out will be next gen only. You would hope, you would imagine. For me, the kind of satisfying thing was, I think I said in an episode a few weeks back that I loved the original Dead Space trailer way back when the first game was kind of teased, and it kind of sang Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in a kind of menacing way. And so when I heard it again during this trailer, that was the moment I was like, oh, they've done it. They've brought not only are they bringing Dead Space back, they've brought the trailer back, which I loved. So that on a kind of nerdy level for me was exciting.
It looked good, didn't it, for a 40-second trailer? It did.
Assuming it's an engine,
the tone right.
Assuming it's an engine, which it probably. I mean, it wasn't a hell of a lot there, so I mean, it might as well have been. The tone's spot on. It's making it pretty clear this is pure horror again. Because by the time we got to Dead Space 3, it was just pure action. And it was kind of disappointing by that point. It didn't feel like Dead Space. It just felt kind of by the numbers. There was microtransactions and all that, which thankfully they've now said it won't have. If it goes back to Dead Space 1 style but looks kind of next gen, that's all you could ask for, really.
Well, one of the things that excites me is I feel horror's like I feel like the PS5 is built for horror games with its 3D audio and its and you sort of Resident Evil
feedback and everything.
You saw Resident Evil did it a bit, particularly with the audio, and I just think it's going to be even more in those empty corridors with the 3D sounds. I'm already scared just thinking about
how jealous that makes me as a guy who's deaf in one ear, unfortunately. I can't. It's one of those things I can never experience, so I want everyone to experience it for me. I feel like my partner who's celiac and she can't eat gluten, and I'm sat there eating pizza in front of her, and everyone else is going to be. But
I can't see in 3D, so when Nintendo released a 3DS, as a massive Nintendo fan, I felt personally like attacked. I only use one eye at a time, so I can't see in 3 dimensions. So,
I used to feel bad for having a disjointed thumb, but now I feel like I've kind of ended up on top.
That sounds like it'd be useful for gamers, even me.
It is. Look, like there's my thumb, right? Like it's an odd shape, right? It's like it goes at like a 45-degree angle, but it does mean when I'm playing Tekken or something, I can throw without turning my hand, because it's designed in an angle that it hits square and X at the same time without doing anything. So
esports players will be happy.
Exactly. Will be genetically modified player.
One fully functioning person between the lot of us, then I guess.
So Captain Planet.
Particularly anything you want to see from these remakes, Dringo? Like in particular, because obviously, I like the fact that they're taking note, of course, of the really impressive resurrection of the Resident Evil series. Not that it'd gone away, but you know what I mean, the remasters and reboots and so on. Are we going to see as well, potentially, like, can you see them, say this goes well, we're in some future where this is gone, it's released in 2023 or whatever, it's gone really well, Are they going to go move on to Dead Space 2, or is it going to be like a reboot of the series in terms of Dead Space 2 won't be Dead Space 2 as we know it, and they'll move away? They'll probably take elements from it, but they'll move away from it in the way that Final Fantasy VII Remake has. Like the second part of that is going to be clearly different to the second half of the game. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
As much as I love to get excited about the sequel to a game that isn't out yet, but but no, I know what you mean, because the thing is, like, nostalgia. If you're doing a nostalgia hit like the Resident Evil 2 remake, sort of a game from 10 years ago or whatever, it's not really, it's a bit too soon, right? The nostalgia tends to work if you're a teenager and you're in your 30s and you're dreaming it. Tony Hawk's works as a remake, for instance, but not so much Dead Space. So it feels like they're sort of, it's like them going, okay, we stalled the series and now we're having to go back and we have to remind people of what the franchise is and what it's about. So we're going back to the beginning. And then I guess you wouldn't want to... You could remake Dead Space 2 because it was also brilliant. But if they are going to continue the franchise from there, I suspect they'll go off in their own way, and much in the same way XCOM did and stuff like that when they sort of reset the franchise. Which I think I would do rather than just try and hit the same beats. It depends. I guess it depends how well it does. And if whether or not they're going to use the word remake, or if they're just going to sort of, it's like a restart. Yeah.
It's less Ghostbusters, more Suicide Squad, basically.
Yeah. The Dead Space.
The Dead Space.
I was a backseat passenger with Dead Space, watching my friends play it, so I've never actually played in them, but they always look fascinating. I'm also a bit of a coward for scary games, if I'm being honest. I just can't do it, so I'd rather be the guy watching than But it looks wonderful and everyone loves it, so I just love the HUD. I'm obsessed with the idea of on the back. I think it's just so tactile and brilliant. So all that kind of stuff. Anything else grab your attention, Chris, from the EA Play Live? Of course, we saw a bit about Battlefield, but 2042 as well, the grid as well. What was your overviews of the show?
It was okay. I mean, I like my racing. I like my Codemasters racing games. I have to legally say that as one of the Tannoy announcers in F1 2021.
How did that come about, by the way? Do you want to tell that story briefly?
I did a tweet like a year ago, where I basically just said one of my dreams is to be in a video game, and that was all I said. And then someone from Codemasters got in touch and said, "Do you want to be a Tannoy announcer in F1?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So they gave me like a script of like just weird, like just general F1 facts and like shout outs to my daughter and all this kind of weird. I'm like, why are we doing this? Nobody knows who I am. Like, why? Like, one of the lines is like, "It's your man Scullion on the Tannoy here at Sochi in Russia," and I'm like, nobody play this is going to know who the fuck that is. Like, what are you doing? And I'll just do it. So that I'm in the game. Ironically enough, you can't hear me yet, because there's a bug in the game that means all the Tannoy announcers are at like 1% volume. So they're going to patch it in later on. So currently I'm in there. I'm not audible to human ears, and neither is anyone else. So they're going to patch the Tannoys in later. But yeah, so that came out of nowhere. But that
so your Codemasters shell is what you're saying now, basically.
Yeah. But luckily I'd always liked their games. Otherwise that would have been quite awkward. But so yes, the Grid Legends looks interesting. It looks like they're basically going kind of story mode again, although Grid always did kind of have story modes, but they're going to be using this F1 style kind of story mode that looks quite interesting. Battlefield's just not I hate kind of online multiplayer stuff, so that's not for me, although I did find it quite humorous that they're doing this kind of new mode where you can mix and match different maps and characters from previous Battlefields.
Portal, is it?
Yeah, Portal. I'd mentioned on Twitter last night, I think it's quite funny that when they did the World War II game and the World War I game, they were always quick to stress, look, we're paying great respect to these wars because we know these were real wars and we have to pay great. And now you've got this game where you can basically take a World War II soldier and just like dump him in like 2030 and have him be like torn apart by drones and shit. It's like, okay, well that's gone. There's no respect anymore. Like, these are real soldiers. Don't forget.
Respect doesn't win you wars, Chris.
No, but that's true. That's true. That's true. That's a lesson learned.
Yeah, exactly. It looked kind of interesting. One thing I kind of caught my, and I'll be honest, I hadn't heard much about it. I thought Lost in Random looks really interesting. I watched that trailer. It's very Tim Burton-esque kind of style, which I really liked. It looked creative. I don't have any expectations for that personally, but it definitely caught my eye. Were you impressed, Dringo?
Yeah, I mean, I love. The thing is, EA is like the big villain, right? It's like they're the evil empire of the games industry. But they do this thing which is incredible, where they publish these indie games, they support these indie games, they put them on stage, and they don't take any profit from it. So so the way that they publish the games, they cover their own costs. They spend a lot of money on marketing, and then they give all of the money to the developer. It's like when I've interviewed them and said, why do you do this? They thought, well, we just want to be on the ground level with indie developers and talent, the next generation of games. We want to be there.
It's really good, isn't it?
And
really
and
good.
You sit there and you think, you're supposed to be evil. It's like
It's that David Mitchell clip. Are we the baddies?
It's a really great thing they do, and whenever I see it, I'm like, this is the bit of EA that I'm not really into things like Ultimate Team and Battlefield either. It's the sort of service-based experiences. I know they've got their fans, and I'm not knocking that stuff. It's just not for me. But when they do things like EA originals and the stuff they do with indie devs, that's all really cool. I love that stuff. I'm also like, actually, and what was also there the other day, their EA partner stuff, which is what they've done with Velan Studios and Knockout City. I think that's a really cool thing. That's a little different. That actually is part funded by EA. Isn't quite the same thing as the indie stuff they do, but it is. I like that side of the company. It's fun to see that innovation going on, and they can. This is the difference that generations created. Is that EA 20 years ago, they had to have hit after hit. Every year they had to release same number of games, and those games needed to make more money than the year before. Whereas now we live in a world where they make so much money out of games like FIFA, and that's growing and getting bigger every year. They can sort of take these gambles and risks and invest in these areas. And it's not just EA.
So is that a good thing overall? Then? Is that a good thing in the end? Because are they learning the lessons as well? Maybe. Are they slowly getting there, or?
Yeah, I think it's.
No, Dring goes.
Well, no, I mean, what you're seeing a little bit. EA is not the best example. Take-Two is a great example because they used to make loads and loads of games, and then this generation they've released very little outside of their annualized franchises. They've done. There's no Bioshock this generation. There's been very little from Take-Two. Only one Rockstar new game. That's because GTA, but they've had such a great generation financially because of Grand Theft Auto Online. So it means that if a game isn't quite right, they can go, I'll push it back. It's less of a big deal. We're living in an industry that's far more sustainable for these companies. They can go, and that's good for developers as well. We're still living in a world where crunch exists, but hopefully now we're getting to a point where these service-based titles are supporting these businesses on a more sustainable level. They can go, staff are having to overwork to get this to deadline. Well, then we'll delay the deadline. It's less of a thing, and so that's what I hope we're going to see. I mean, don't be wrong; these are still big companies that want to make loads of money, and if they feel that Dead Space will make or whatever game is going to make them a lot more money by sticking a lot of microtransactions in it, they will. Yeah. But it does mean that I think it just makes. Hopefully, it'll make the industry be able to get over some of the big issues that it's had in the past, where it's dependent on that hit game.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing that goes all the way back to even the Wii era, when you had loads of people complaining, and obviously it's a different situation because it's not like microtransactions, it's not service games and stuff like that. So there were less accusations, agreed. But when you had stuff like Wii Sports, Wii Fit, Wii Music all coming out and doing well, and you had the quote unquote hardcore gamers complaining about these games, and it's like, well, if these games didn't succeed, you would never have got your Sin and Punishment 2 or your Punch-Out remake on the Wii, or the games that sold 30 copies that Nintendo would never have made, never dreamt of making if they weren't successful elsewhere. The big stuff is a kind of necessary evil. Not that I disliked Wii Fit and stuff like that, and I'm a big fan of FIFA Ultimate Team, even though I get away with not spending money on it. But these things are a kind of necessary evil if you want the kind of niche, kind of hardcore, for want of a better term, kind of quirky stuff. You're going to have to put up with the more mainstream successful stuff because that's what pays for it. Dead Space is a horror. EA is a company that needs to grow. It doesn't just need to make profit. Dead Space, I'm sure, has always made a profit, but it doesn't just need to make a profit. If it's in the old era, it had to be bigger each and every time. And it's a horror genre, and horror genre's got an audience, and that's what the audience is. And Splinter Cell for Ubisoft, and it's a stealth genre. It kind of is what it is. It's not going to get massively bigger each and every time. And if you're a company that's all about growing, getting bigger, making more money every year, which is what public companies need to do, that's tricky. But now, because they've got these big growth areas, they can sort of invest in their IP in different ways. Hopefully, it doesn't mean they have to, but they should do, and I think they'd want to. So, and that's what I hope we saw a little bit of at EA Play.
Yeah, definitely. Second story today, we're talking about Netflix. Streaming giant Netflix has officially confirmed this week it's expanding into video games. In the latest financial results published on Tuesday, the company said it was currently in the early stages of expanding into games, building on its early efforts around interactive television such as Black Mirror Bandersnatch and its Stranger Things games. Games will be included in members' Netflix subscription at no additional cost, the company said, and it initially will be primarily focused on games for mobile devices. Netflix said in a letter to shareholders, "We view gaming as another new content category for us, similar to our expansion into original films, animation, and unscripted TV. We're excited as ever about our movies and TV series offering, and we expect a long runway of increasing investment and growth across all of our existing content categories. But since we are nearly a decade into our push into original programming, we think the time is right to learn more about how our members value games." Last week, it emerged that Netflix had appointed former EA and Facebook executive Mike Verdu to work on a video game-related initiative, and a Bloomberg report claimed that Netflix intended to add video games to its streaming platform within the next 12 months, presented as a new programming genre. I'll go to you, Dring, on this one, because obviously there's, it seems a little bit more... I don't know why I got to you, as if you're like the business head. Well, you are, I guess. But like, for one, why do you think, and obviously it's for money reasons, but why do you think Netflix are going to this now in terms of the timing as well? Is there a hope for this? Is it going to be that kind of tab that no one goes near, at the top corner? Is it? I saw mobile games mentioned as well. Is it going to be mainly kind of like mobile kind of stuff? What's your take on this whole Netflix thing?
Well, it's quite... I mean, Netflix once said, when people said, "What's your biggest competitor?" many, many, many years ago, they said sleep. And then when they said, "What's your next?"
That's why I went to you. Good quote.
And then when they said, "What's your next big?" And then when it came back again, the quote came back and they said, "Fortnite." Like, Netflix is so big and it just wants to be in everywhere. And it's not competing for people. It's not competing for money anymore. Really, it's competing for people's time. And when you and games is so big, it's so competitive, it's so popular and growing so much. Games is sucking people's time away, and they're not spending on Netflix. So what Netflix is going right. If we put games on our platform, that's more customers, and they've got over 200 million customers, right? You talk about 23 million or 20 million or however Xbox Game Pass has got. Netflix has got 10 times that. Now it's the mobile stuff makes sense because I suspect the audience they've got now is broader and mobile is broader, so I understand why they're doing that. But for me, imagine you're watching the Witcher TV series, the bit at the end when you watch the thing and it says watch next, and and one of those options is play The Witcher. Right? It's that kind of thing that makes me go, that's exciting and that's interesting. There's this, sorry to be a bit boring, but a little while ago Phil Spencer talked about the 3 C's that he believes will make cloud gaming successful. Cloud, you need to have cloud infrastructure, which Netflix has. I mean, it uses Amazon's service, but Amazon Web Services, but it has a cloud infrastructure. You need content, which Netflix doesn't have, and you need a community, which Netflix does have. So if Netflix can get hold of some content, it's got all what Microsoft view as the killer things that you need to build a successful subscription service. The only thing that makes me go is that I've been doing this a long time, and the amount of TV and film companies that go, "I'm going to get into games," and then a couple of years later run with their tail between their legs going, "Oh, it's really hard."
What was that Bezos got into space before he launched a video game, so it's going to be like, it's not easy, is it? I mean, obviously they can hire lots of people, I'm sure. They have the money and the funds to get there. But I think I'm still a little bit... I'm not skeptical about cloud gaming because I know it's going to be a thing. But I've got a 500 megabyte connection, and if I try and stream via my browser, it's still just to me. And I've got very good internet. I've got exceptional internet, I would say, compared to most people. And it feels like am I wrong in saying it feels like a long way away before this is going to be a thing that everyone could dive into properly, especially with big games? It's
not for us. But we've got games consoles, we've got gaming PCs. And we don't need game streaming. Why the industry is excited about game streaming is the ability to unlock people who don't want to spend 500 quid, 450 quid, whatever, on a games console. It's for people who might see an advert for Grand Theft Auto or The Witcher and go, "Oh, I'd like to play that. Oh, I need to invest all this up front to get that ability to play it." It's for that audience. And the reason why the Ubisofts and the EAs and all the big publishers are excited about it is it just means that they've got an audience that they can talk to that they weren't able to before.
Yeah, it's not bad install base, is it?
So it's just, the Google was the big exciting thing about Stadia was the fact that they were going to use YouTube. So all the billions of people that watch YouTube. It was like, we're going to put games in front of that audience and they can just click a button and play it. Now, obviously, the tech needs to get up and running. It's not going to work for most people. And, there's loads of things that will make this slow down. And Xbox right now believe that most people who use xCloud are actually existing Xbox customers who are using it to stream their game to another device or something. So, yes, it is a long way away. But that is why people are excited. And that's why the Netflix is interesting, because it has an audience that isn't necessarily gaming audience. It's a TV audience. And that's interesting. But the question is whether or not they'll be patient with that stuff, because...
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because there's so many. Even Disney's had a big E3 with a lot of licensed stuff that did really well for them, but Disney backed out of games after investing in it. I think the only one that's really stuck around is Warner Brothers, and even they seem to be wobbling a little bit, and that was partly because they bought Midway. So there's so many, and it's not just Google, Nokia. So many examples of big companies that thought we'll muscle into games and make a noise here. Amazon, and then it just made them go, actually no. We know what we're doing.
Why do you think that is, Chris? Why do you think it is that these companies all like they come in and they usually just fail? I mean, is it because they don't understand the market? Is it because they don't realize how hard it is? Is it because they don't also have I guess maybe people don't associate games with Netflix, they associate with PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox. What's your take on that?
It's a combination of different things. It's like it's different every time. A lot of the time it does feel like failure to understand the market. I mean, in terms of Netflix, it feels like they're doing it right so far at this stage. I mean, they've already dabbled with games before by allowing by kind of setting up Stranger Things games and stuff like that in the past, and obviously Bandersnatch was an attempt at some sort of interactive entertainment, and so was the Minecraft series.
I thought it was really boring, by the way. I'm just going to put it out.
Did you? I loved it.
I found it so tedious. But there we go. But maybe I was wrong. But either way, but they've got that. They've got the Minecraft kind of game on there already, the kind of choose your own adventure type thing. So they've already kind of showed that they've dabbled with it. The decision to go mobile first for me is a smart one, because it means the games are going to be low development costs. It solves the kind of streaming problem, because you would imagine the first batch will be kind of downloadable ones rather than streaming ones, and that kind of helps them ease their way into games and kind of dip their toe in the water, instead of saying we're going to commit $800 million to gaming and then just make an absolute arse of it. They can kind of start by saying, okay, well, here's a little chess mini game based on that chess thing that everyone lost their shit over, or here's like a visual novel fits in between two seasons of Stranger Things and stuff like that, and kind of ease their way in with kind of the simpler game genres before they kind of if people are biting and people are into it, then they can take a step forward and say, okay, well, now we're going to kind of start some streaming stuff, and there's going to be higher production values, and you may need to buy a controller to sync up. That's when it starts getting complicated, but at that point they need people all in. It feels like they're taking baby steps just now, and that's why I think it's got more of a chance to succeed than other people who've just kind of gone wild and kind of dove in and realised it was a mistake. Yeah,
it all solves the controller problem, because I guess mobile's interesting, because when you get these over the top sort of TV, sort of these TV devices that like even Sky, right? Sky, there's been Beehive. My wife plays Beehive Bedlam on the Sky box, so that it's basically and it's like I'm like, as long as Netflix do more than that, which is like, oh, we've got some mini games.
Mate, you're gonna get great 4K Farmville. You're gonna love it, man. Like,
let me look something up. Let me look something up while you're talking, because there's something I played recently which I think could work. But talk amongst yourselves and I'll find it, because I forgot.
I wonder if the natural progression of things like Bandersnatch is the game. I mean, it's not as simple as this, and I probably should shoot the stars a bit here. Games such as Until Dawn and the Dark Pictures Anthology, like games where they love the more of an interactive story, and I don't know if they could be adapted. Maybe I can imagine a version of Until Dawn where actually you're just pressing the buttons as opposed to walking around would work quite well in a remote control. Maybe not, because it's pretty well acted and it has people like big actors in it. As
sort of choose your own thing.
But also something like that. Go on.
Also, Netflix has a lot of games. Like, it's done a good job of attracting gamers to their platform through things like they did their gaming thing during E3, didn't they? Where they were showing off the Cuphead stuff, and they've got the Resident Evil thing went recently, and then there's even stuff that sort of sits on the side of games that isn't games is on there. So they've been quite. The Witcher is a big one, obviously, as well. So they've been quite good with that kind of thing. So but it's interesting, because Amazon do the sort of, they've got the service which goes into different areas that isn't just TV. So it shows Netflix doing that.
So I don't know if you've ever checked out Air Console which was a thing which I wasn't aware of, but when I reviewed the Atari VCS, which was a shambles. The one thing going for it was it had support for Air Console, which turns out is this kind of casual gaming experience where basically it plays games on a browser, and they're decent. They're kind of basic 3D kind of polygonal games, and your web browser plays them, and you use your phone as the controller, and it's almost like kind of a Wii U situation where your phone displays a separate set of controls for every game. So theoretically, going forward with Netflix, you could have situations where it's like play Stranger Things the game, and you use your phone, you log into your Netflix account on your phone, and that's your controller, and you've got your bespoke set of controls on your camera screen, and then the game itself, whether it's on your web browser or just on your TV streaming in, and they can be not low quality, but reasonable quality games, whether it's like a Diablo style Stranger Things game or something like that, and you could use your phone as a controller. But I tried it out, this Air Console thing, and it's genuinely quite impressive tech. And if something like that can take off, and Air Console, with the greatest respect to them, isn't a household name, you would imagine Netflix could find the tech to pull that off. Because even this Air Console, the latency is quite low. It's one of the better streaming things I've tried out, and stuff like AntStream Arcade does a decent job. Some of the kind of online streaming stuff is getting better as long as people kind of take it easy with the quality of the games. It's when you start going into like 4K streaming racing games that everything just becomes an absolute mess. As long as they pace themselves, it could be done.
PlayStation did their PlayLink, didn't they? Which was a similar concept of the mobile phone control games. Which was a shame. I always felt they didn't really push it very hard. No. I remember it was the E3 announcement that wasn't during the E3 press event, and it was. I always thought it was quite a cool idea. Some of the games weren't great, but I like the. But
did you try the Jeopardy one they did recently? They released a Jeopardy quiz game on Xbox and PlayStation that has got a phone app as well, and what they did is they played old episodes of Jeopardy. Now there's episodes of Jeopardy on Netflix already. It played old episodes from the 30-40 year Jeopardy vaults, and when it came to a question, you would buzz in with your mobile and speak the answer, and it used voice recognition to tell whether you get the answer right or not. So you're basically playing the game show along with your family and getting like points for it and stuff like that. As long as they think outside the box and use the content they've got in ways like this, the possibilities are interesting for gaming without it being the traditional games that we imagine in our head, like 3D platformers and stuff like that. There could be interesting ways of doing it.
I just want every film that's had a game. Every game that's had a film tie-in should be on it, just as a default. It's not going to work that way, but that would be one. Also, hear me out, Scully. The whole series of Bullseye and Bullseye the game, just for you. So go back to it. Anyway,
sounds great.
Yeah. Moving on to the next story. PES is dead. PES is dead. Konami's announced that the next game in its long-running football series will be free to play and have a new name, formerly known as Pro Evolution Soccer. I never called it PES, by the way, with my mates. I already called it Pro Evo. It's Pro Evo to me. That's what it was always.
I'm sorry. What's Pro Evo? Is it like ISS? Is that what?
Oh yeah, ISS.
It's the glory days. Now you're talking. ISS is what
International
what Legends call it. Exactly.
Well, I absolutely love ISS. ISS 64 is one of my favorite games of all time. Genuinely.
See if you were able to get a kind of lifetime hours played on games, my top three without a doubt would be ISS on the SNES, ISS 64, and WWF No Mercy. That's the three games I put the most, because my brother, every single morning, every single night, we'd play those games for hours. And
it'd probably ISS 64, probably No Mercy, and probably then I would say GoldenEye. I reckon some multiplayer incentive, but then they would be the free quite literally as well. Those days where you did it for like 10 hours in a row, and probably 16 hours in a row on a Sunday. Wake up.
It took me 6 months to play Majora's Mask because of No Mercy. Every time I went to plug that game in, because it came out at the same time. It came out at Christmas, and every time I went to plug in Majora's Mask, I was like, hang on. And also, it was a game. The bug. Do you remember the bug in No Mercy where the blood caused the game to lose its save file? I kind of liked it whenever it wiped my game because it gave me an excuse to do it all over again.
But then you could never afford to buy the oversized novelty version of the Rock's book in the SmackDown Mall and use that as a weapon. So there was always that. So I traded mine in. I took mine to Game and swapped for the one with the bloodless version which was
you could probably sell the Blood version for £1 million these days, right?
No doubt, yeah. I'll need to send it to that place to get it.
I can't even remember which my
graded.
version is. I've got it in
basically, if you got it at launch, it would have had blood on it. But then the second
I think I probably didn't know.
Fixed the bug, but took the.
I don't remember it crashing a lot, so that's probably mine was probably okay, to be honest. But did you ever used to do that thing? Like I remember, I missed those era of gaming where you're younger, before the internet and guides and stuff. So where you just used to just like go, you check every wall or everything for a secret, basically. Like you'd go around in the backstage and you're always looking for new corridors. Whatever hit that with that, the chair with that there, and it was like I loved that part of No Mercy. The fact that you just explore little bits and all that kind of stuff. What a game.
I don't even know if I should tell this story, but the blood thing relates to one of the most shameful experience I've ever had in my 35 years playing video games.
Yes, you should tell this story.
When WWF Attitude came out.
Not bad.
It came out as they were developing it. Owen Hart passed away, obviously, in that kind of ridiculous thing where he fell off the kind of, and it was too late to kind of take him out of the game. And for a while, it was like, are they going to take him out? Are they going to keep him in? And they kept him in the game with like a in memory of Owen Hart thing at the start when he came in. And it quickly emerged that he was the only character in the game that you couldn't make bleed. They basically tagged it so that he couldn't bleed, because obviously that would have been disrespectful and all that. So I'd spent an hour and a half hitting him with a steel chair over and over and over again to try and make him bleed, and it didn't happen. And every now and then I think back on what I did in a full shame that I had basically attacked a man who had recently passed away for an hour and a half to try and make him bleed, just to prove to myself that I could, and I couldn't. So in a way, my failure is the ultimate tribute. But I did feel quite. I do still feel quite bad. So yeah,
that's grim, absolutely grim. Let's go back to Pro Evo. Formerly known as Pro Evolution Soccer and Winning 11. Winning 11 as well. I forgot about that. The next installment will be called eFootball and has been completely rebuilt in Unreal Engine. The new game will be released on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC in the autumn, with iOS and Android versions following later. Although the game will be free, Konami says that more content and game modes will be released after launch, and some of these will cost money. The publisher said in a statement, as a digital-only title, Konami will regularly add new content and game modes after launch this autumn. In the future, certain game modes will be sold as optional DLC, giving players the freedom to build an experience that follows their interests. According to a roadmap published by Konami, the game will launch with the ability to play local matches with a selection of clubs, as well as the ability to play cross-generation matches, i.e. PS5 versus PS4, Series X versus Xbox One, etc. Later in the autumn, the game will add support for online leagues and a team-building mode similar to the My Club mode in PES titles, although its new name is yet to be confirmed. Are you a fan of PES recently?
Not recently.
No.
I've always kind of enjoyed it. I went through that period of believing that Pro Evo was better than FIFA, like for years, because that was always the culture.
Was for a while.
The cultured gamer always knew that PES was, FIFA was about the licenses and PES was about the gameplay. But then in kind of recent years, basically since about the FIFA 16, FIFA 17, FIFA 15 even, I think FIFA overtook it again in terms of gameplay. A lot of people don't agree. A lot of people still think it held. Pro Evo kind of held its own, but I kind of think FIFA overtook it again at that point. But
it's eFootball now. Is this a good idea?
I'm not against the free-to-play thing. I think that could be potentially a good idea, and buying stuff like Master League separately, fine. I get that. My concern is that by the winter they want to add expand across platform play to include Android and iOS, so that theoretically you've got PS5 players playing against Android players, and at that point you've got to imagine what sacrifices are being made to the physics and the gameplay to cater for Android players if you're playing on a next gen system. Like, how's that going to work? And because you've got you've basically got FIFA and eFootball taking completely different routes down this thing. Like, EA have basically said we're separating the next gen versions and we're adding all this new motion technology to make it look shit hot, and it's only possible in this because it's using machine learning and all that. And now you've got eFootball basically saying we want people on Android to be able to play this with people on next gen, and it makes you think, how's this going to play, basically, because are there going to be sacrifices made?
What are you thinking, Dringo? I can see your mind working over.
Well, I'm surprised that they're allowing mobile players to play with console players, because Fortnite and stuff don't allow that. But PES lost, right? It wasn't. It didn't. I mean, even if the game's good, but FIFA's good and it has all the licenses, so it lost. But there is opportunity in the football games market, particularly outside of that premium space, and especially in mobile. Like FIFA's never quite cracked it, and if PES can go right, we'll pivot towards free-to-play, service-based games. We'll engage an audience and keep them coming back. Was every single year, FIFA's got this challenge of when the football season ends, they've got to try and keep people playing FIFA and then upgrade them to the next FIFA. And it's working for them. They're being very, very successful about it. But it is something they have to work really hard at. The ability not to have to do that is good for Konami, and the opportunity is in mobile. That's where the thing is. It's getting people in India, right? These emerging territories where they don't have consoles because it just doesn't make much sense to them, where they're playing PUBG in their millions and millions. That's the sort of, and Konami's probably going, right, we should go for that audience, because that's where we can build from. And so I think it is a very sensible business move for them. I think it's obviously sad for a certain generation of gamer. But then PES has always changed. We made jokes earlier about ISS and stuff. It's a franchise that has evolved and adapted and changed and twisted all down the years, and I think that this is just another step on that journey.
I must admit, and I'm not trying to be cynical, because I was a PES kid as well, but like, I don't think eFootball is a good name. That's my honest opinion. It sounds like a category. It doesn't. I'm sorry. It sounds like a category, not a. If I saw that on Twitch as a category, maybe that's the point they're going for. But when you think about brands. Brand recognition is a thing. You think of FIFA, and it's always one word named FIFA, Madden, Zelda, COD, Warzone. Like eFootball doesn't roll off the tongue in the same way. I'm going to be honest. Like, fancy a game of eFootball sounds really, really old man trying to understand the internet to me. And like, I know that sounds really cruel, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does, but I think the branding is. I feel like PES, for example, is a brand you recognise, and maybe it comes with time, but. I think even e-soccer sounds better, and I hate the word soccer. Like, I just think eFootball sounds. Maybe it won't mean anything, but I don't know. It's just I really it shouldn't switch me off at all, and maybe the game will win people over. But I wonder if they're setting themselves up for a much more difficult task than it should be to win people over when they've got. It might be really dead branding, and like, I'm not sure that's going to help. But maybe am I overthinking that there? Like, is it a better name than I'm giving it credit for?
Well, I mean, PES isn't called PES. It's called Pro Evolution Soccer, yes. And COD isn't called COD. It's called Call of Duty. I think fans might end up calling it whatever they want. An F.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. What? EFO, maybe EFO or something. I don't know.
Yeah. The interesting thing for me is I'm not against the idea of ditching the annual routine and bringing out a new game every year, and instead just saying this is the game. And theoretically, this game could last a generation, and we'll just keep kind of updating it and updating the squads. And I'm in favour of that idea.
It's a good idea, I think. The whole
it's a great idea on paper. The thing I'm curious about is how they're going to pace this, because by the time a FIFA season is over and the next FIFA is due to come out, by that time my Ultimate Team is full of legends and full of great players and stuff, and my team's basically where I want it to be. I've got no desire to improve that team. It's basically hit the pinnacle, and then when I'm ready to start the next FIFA and start with a crap team all over again. It's fine for games like Fortnite and stuff like that, for these games to last forever, because they can keep throwing in crossovers and crazy outfits and stuff like that. But for a sport like football, which is pretty much you get what you get. I mean, it is what it is. Like, these are the players. You're not going to get someone better than Messi. You're not going to get someone better than Ronaldo. Once you've got a team of the best players, that's your team. It's not going to get better. I'm curious to see.
Route, though? Could they introduce like legends?
Theoretically, but then again, once you've got Maradona and Pele, then what do you do? But
I mean, players get older, right? They get older, they get injured. You just try. I assume it's just going to follow like real sport, right? When new players come in.
We have seasons in Warzone.
Yeah.
Is there any game more suited for seasons than an actual thing that has seasons. You know, like is it it's going to be
But the thing with Warzone is Warzone can keep throwing in customization stuff. It's like, what is the scope for customization in this? Are they going to go the way they went with the old PES games back in the day, where you could put dinosaur costumes on them and give them big comedy afros and stuff like that? Because I'm up for that. It's just whether the official clubs licensing their names to it would be happy with you getting a retro Thierry Henry and then like putting a big like moustache on him and dressing him up like a comedy Frenchman with a beret. Like, is this going to be allowed? Or because it's the customization that keeps these things ticking over, like in terms of these live service stuff. I'm just curious to see how much scope there is for customization in a game like this. I don't know. We'll see.
I think I'd have more faith in it if it wasn't Konami. I think if this was a EA, if EA decided to do this with FIFA, I go, this probably makes sense. They need to. Ultimate Team could well become an 18 rated mode at the rate of things are going with loot boxes.
It could stand alone, couldn't it? Ultimate Team, the way Warzone did, in my opinion. Ultimate Team could be a thing, and then it'd be free to play, and it'd make an absolute killing. And I'm surprised they haven't done that yet, even being honest. Like maybe they don't need to because of FIFA.
The problem is, like you say with Konami, Konami's menu structure and its kind of interface is a complete car crash every time. Like every time a new PES comes out, I go, right, I'm going to really get into my team this time and figure it out. I don't know how it works. I still don't know how it works, like to this day. And I try my best, and it's something to do with formations, and managers can only have certain players with a certain energy rating or something, and only some formations. I don't know. It's a mess.
And live service games, like, they require an expertise that, you know, the amount of successful live service games, they tend to go through hell before they become successful. You see so many stories of this, of a developer that's never made a live service game before making it and then getting it drastically wrong and then having to claw back the fans afterwards. And they succeed, but it's because they end up going, right, this is, you've already seen it. You're talking about eFootball saying, they're going to launch this in autumn and this in spring. I'm like, no, you're not. Right, because you're going to launch the game, everyone's going to love something you didn't think they'd love, and you're going to pivot towards that, or everyone's going to hate the game, and you're going to have to completely re-scrap your. And I
think it's more likely to be the latter. That's the thing that concerns me most. Like I think it's got every chance to succeed going forward if they're going to, like Dringo says, as long as they keep at it, they'll eventually nail it. It's launching as a demo. Let's face it. They can polish it up all they like. It looks like it's going to have like 7 teams on it, and you can only play friendlies. That's how they're selling it basically. And you can play local matches with a selection of teams, which basically says demo to me, because demos for Pro Evo games. Yeah, demos for Pro Evo games were like that in the past, where you would get. You could choose Juventus, Real Madrid, Inter Milan, and a couple of others, and you could play friendly matches, and that was it. That was how Pro Evo demos used to go, and that's exactly what this looks like. And then a few months down the line, they'll start adding actual modes, and that's a gamble, because you only get one chance to make a first impression. And if you're going to get a lot of players downloading that and going, there's nothing on this, and just ditching it at that point, it's going to take a while to win them back and say to them, no, actually, there's stuff on it now, come back. It's a weird move. For
me, the 8 teams thing is me, because I make content about football. We're all football fans here, I think. We all know how tribal football is. I'm a 35-year-old male, but I still play as Manchester City Football Club. I can't help it. I play as the team. I am not going to want to play as Barcelona. I'm going to be honest there. Like, the fact that there's only 8 teams to me is, I may be wrong, and maybe people prove me wrong, but can you really imagine? Like, I don't know. Say, I don't know who's going to be on the game. So say there's 2 Italian teams. Say it's Inter and Juve. Are you telling me a kid in Italy who supports Napoli or Roma is going to sit there and play as Juventus or Inter or maybe another team? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes down. And bear in mind, lots of teams who support, I don't know, Championship or League One clubs, they can't stand Premier League sides. I'm very interested to see how that goes down from a purely logistic thing, because it feels to me like a misunderstanding of how football fans sometimes appreciate the game. Maybe that's why things like Ultimate Team work so well, because they have that whole thing where you can create your own squad that isn't these sides. But go on, Dream.
I mean, it's obvious over time that they're going to add the full leagues and stuff in, because if they only just like a week or 2 ago they were announcing
fair enough.
New kind of exclusivity deals with more Serie A teams, so it's clear that the whole Serie A league and all the leagues are still going to be in there. So I'm assuming all the existing deals with like the Scottish Premier League and all that kind of stuff are going to be in there. Celtic's like a partner club. That's my team, and they're a partner club with Konami, which means as long as that remains, Celtic Park will never be in FIFA. None of that kind of stuff will happen. It's always in Pro Evo. So you're launching this game and Celtic aren't in it. Celtic Park's not in it. And I'm like, well, So how long do I have to wait until Celtic appears? And then and even it's like what's just hold fire and give us like the mods on day one. It's but again, this is a temporary issue. Over time,
who are you going to play there? Bielsa's not in there, Dringo. Like if Leeds, the glorious Leeds aren't there. Like,
I mean,
you're going to be happy.
I've had to
play as Man United.
I've had to put up with Leeds not really being in football games for quite a while. This is a new situation for me.
I remember those days as well.
But I don't know. I think putting players and teams. I suspect with PES it will be a load of fake teams anyway, won't it? And so I think the thing is
Man Blue and stuff.
Yeah, the thing I think
Ellen Boys.
I think the thing with service games is that you don't want to put too much in at the beginning because once you put a game out there, it then takes a life of its own, and then you go, oh, we've got to, the amount of interviews I've done with developers that just threw out their plans as soon as the game was launched, and everyone was interested in a certain thing, and everyone was playing the game in a certain way, and then we have to change this or tweak this. You have to adapt. So sort of launching with too much stuff in there day one, it turns out that half the stuff people aren't interested in. It's a waste of time and energy. But at the same, and you want to leave yourself with plenty of room to adapt and evolve. Teams is different, obviously, because that's just players and stuff. But I mean, but it's Konami aren't known for this, so we'll see. I'd
just like to see how long they take to get this stuff implemented, because I still remember the first year Celtic was added to it as a partner team, and they made a big deal about. They had the press event at Celtic Park, which I attended, and made a big massive deal about how we're going to scan all the players' faces, we're going to have the stadium in there and all this kind of stuff. Game launched, wasn't there yet, and they said, yeah, they're coming, we're just working on it, and it was like 7 months until Celtic turned up with fully scanned faces in the stadium, by which point the game was like $14.99 and I'd paid £50 for it, waiting. And so like if that's they're going to need to pick up the pace if they're going to be adding content like this.
I've not actually spoken to Konami in so long. Is it made by the same people? Is it still Seabass and all that?
I don't think so. I'm not certain Seabass is involved in it anymore. It's changed drastically since back in the day. Like in terms of look and feel and structure and everything. It's like I don't know. I genuinely don't know who's involved in it now, but it feels like a very different game and a different service. It's just I don't know. I've been down on it in recent years. I'm happy to give this another go and keep going, but it feels like. I've not been massively confident in how Konami's handled it in the past few years, and I'm concerned that this is just going to be a longer version of
I'm down on the name.
A game I've struggled with before.
But
I don't like the name, but the name's just the name. Yeah.
We want it to be good, don't we? Because we don't want FIFA being this
of course.
monopoly. Like we need.
There's. I think there's. I never mind that. I think there's still space in the market for an arcade style football game again, because we don't have a sensible soccer and we don't have.
And FIFA Street was terrible.
Football.
I'm sorry, but it was the recent edition. I thought it was just naff on the race.
I wouldn't be surprised if Take-Two makes a move at some point.
Yeah,
in
you
this
think
space.
so?
Because there are only two sports publishers left in the world of this scale who can afford to do this, and it's Take-Two. But Take-Two's entire sporting strength is in the US with NBA and stuff like that. That's where their strength is. But they bought a mobile developer about a month ago, a couple of months ago, who make football mobile games, and it was their Take-Two's first foray really into mobile game development and mobile game development. Sorry, European football and European sport all in, and they're such a massive. We don't really think about it in the UK, but NBA is one of the biggest games in the world, and that in 2K is. Take-Two is the only company that really competes with EA in that world, and you've got to have masses of money, really deep pockets. You've got to invest. EA and Take-Two were fighting over Codemasters only 6 months ago, right? That that's the company, and that's why I actually completely expected Take-Two at some point to make an offer for PES or something like that. It feels like the sort of game they could turn into a PES 2K. eFootball 2K.
That sounds PES 2K sounds great. It genuinely does. That would work really well. But
But it's interesting you bring them up, because it reminds me of like when you said they might kind of go into football, because obviously they've got this NBA Playgrounds, the more kind of arcadey style. They did it with WWE, with WWE Battlegrounds. They said that they announced they've got the NFL license, but haven't kind of announced what they're doing with it yet. But EA were still making it clear, no, we are really the only people making realistic American football games, which makes me think there's going to be a kind of arcade style NFL game coming from 2K. So it would make sense if they're kind of acquired this developer that handles football stuff, that there might be a football equivalent, a football playgrounds style arcade game on the way potentially.
Would be nice.
You never know.
Get Mario Strikers back.
Now you're talking.
What a game. Finally, on the subject of Nintendo, our very own Chris Scullion here has done an opinion piece over on VideoGamesChronicle.com about Switch's online retro service, and it's better than it's getting credit for. Today, Nintendo, this is from Chris, who wrote it himself. I'll read the first paragraph and I'll jump over to Chris. Today, Nintendo announced that the 3 more SNES games, actually, I call it SNES, by the way, sorry. I know people call it SNES or whatever, but I call it SNES because I'm from the UK, so that's what we do. Games are coming to its Switch Online subscription service. Claymates, Jelly Boy, and Bamboozle will be added to the library on July 28, bringing the total number of SNES games available to 55. As was the case with the previous updates, though, it's probably fair to say this reaction to this news has been far from positive. You only need to take a brief glance at the replies to any Nintendo official tweets to see an onslaught of negativity. Chris, I'm going to go over to this. So you wrote this article over Video Games Chronicle and essentially defending Nintendo's policy on this. What could you want to summarise the article and why, basically?
Yeah, basically, and I just, as a qualifier before I start, because I've been getting lots of bootlicker comments on Twitter and all that kind of stuff, as you would expect. The article deliberately, the headline deliberately isn't Nintendo Switch online service is great. That's not what it says. It just says it's better than people give it credit for. There are a multitude of ways in which it can still be improved. The speed at which the rate at which the games are being added is painfully slow and is unacceptable. The fact that it's still only 2 formats, NES and SNES, is unacceptable by this point. You would hope to at the very least have Game Boy in there, Game Boy Advance. People want N64. All that stuff's a given, and I'm not shying away from that and not like kind of arguing that's not the case, because it absolutely is the case. The article is more about the fact that when these games that are announced, as infrequent as they are, 99% of the comments are, "What is this shit? We didn't ask for this. This is bullshit." And it's like, fair enough. I know nobody had Claymates, Jelly Boy, and Bamboozle at the top of their wish lists for this, but my point is that is exactly why they are the perfect games to be added to this service, because everyone keeps saying we want Earthbound, everyone keeps saying we want Super Mario RPG. Earthbound was on the Wii U Virtual Console, it was on the new 3DS Virtual Console, it was on the SNES Mini, same as Super Mario RPG. If you wanted those games, really desperately wanted them, you would have had access to them by now, and you would have bought them by now, and you would have played them by now. I wonder how many people... Someone brought up a great point on Twitter. Loads of people were complaining and wanting Donkey Kong Country 2 and Donkey Kong Country 3 added to it. And then they finally got added and everyone suddenly shut up. But nobody was sharing pictures and screenshots of them playing Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3 on Twitter and stuff like that. It seemed like nobody gave a shit. And they moved straight on to Earthbound or Mario RPG. My point is more that by putting these obscure games on here, and very few of them are bad games. This is the thing that people don't seem to be willing to accept, is that granted with a library that large, there's not everyone's not going to be a winner for you. Everyone's got kind of varied tastes, obviously, but Jelly Boy's a fun platformer, legitimately. Claymates is an interesting platformer made by the people who did Clay Fight, and it's got kind of interesting morphing mechanic in it. Bamboozle's not my cup of tea, but a lot of people had it on the Amiga and loved it. It was a great kind of puzzle game. These games are there to be discovered, and because they're free instead of $8 like they used to be on Virtual Console, they're there and waiting for you to take a punt on and say, well, I've no idea what this is, but I'm going to try it out, and who knows, I might discover my new favourite hidden gem. We all know, like, Chrono Trigger. Anyone who gives a shit about Chrono Trigger knows it inside out. We all know Earthbound, we all know Mario RPG, and we can get them. The interesting thing here is the discoverability of titles that you may never have heard of in your life. And I put a tweet up saying, have any of you played a game on Switch Online because you'd never played it before and you now suddenly love it. And I got like 40, 50 replies from people saying, oh yeah, I'd never played Mario's Super Picross before and now I fucking love Picross games. Or I'd never played, I can't remember, there's a kind of Japanese firefighting game on SNES, which is an excellent game and it's on there too. Or I'd never played Project Vice on the NES, which is a brilliant kind of wee shoot. So yes, by all means, it would be great for all of the great first party Nintendo games to be on there. That's a given. But the point was mainly that we shouldn't dismiss the kind of lesser known ones, because that doesn't mean they're lesser games, just lesser known. Sorry, I'm rambling a bit now because I get quite annoyed about it.
No.
But,
do you agree, Dringo? Or is he just being is he a bootlicker basically? I guess. Is the question.
No. I just Switch Online service has been. One thing with me with Switch Online service is that it's just not been that interesting for a while. So from a new customer perspective, you might have come in for Tetris 99 or something, or you came in for those early SNES games. And lately, they're not giving us many reasons to subscribe or renew their subscription. And I suspect Nintendo aren't very good with this kind of thing. It is cool that these retro games are being sort of given their. Basically, they've got those 3 games have been the 3 new Nintendo games or for Nintendo fans to play, and they'll probably have more players now than they've ever had as a result of this, and that's obviously brilliant. But I don't suspect they're getting many subscribers or retaining many customers as a result. I think for me though, I get it a lot with Nintendo fans, Nintendo Life fans, on Nintendo Life, the website. I often jump into the forums there, and I remember when there was a port for Pikmin, and somebody said, I would have been okay if Nintendo released all these ports within 6 months rather than spread them out over the year. Spread them out over the whole generation. And I'm like, well, of course they're going to spread it. Why would you? Who has time to play? So, if you've never played a Wii U game, if you've not had a Wii U or you never played any of those games, Nintendo released all of them in 6 months. You're never going to play them. It's a rubbish idea. It's not realistic. And the idea that so spreading these things out, the Nintendo Switch Online service hopefully lives forever. Right? It's not a Switch generation, they close that down and they start again. It's not back to the old virtual console ways. It's got to be a service that will continue on to the next platform and the platform after that and the platform after that. And maybe one day we're accessing it via other devices. That's what it's got to be. In that case, Nintendo might be taking a very slow, boring, and I really do think that it'd be great if they sped up. But those games are coming. And it's just that in those N64 games, those GameCube games, those Game Boy Advance games, they will arrive. But I do wonder a lot of the times if Nintendo are being overcautious, if they're holding stuff back out of fear that they're going to have a period of time when they don't have anything. And I guess they're going through that a little bit now.
We know that's true with Trilogy now, don't we? With Metroid Prime Trilogy, because they're holding that back surely for a reason. I suspect when they originally commissioned Metroid Prime 4, they thought, right, that's landing 2021, right? And they're going, right, so we'll get Metroid Prime Trilogy out for 2020, and so that the game nicely done, nice and ready, and then it had a restart development, and I thought, well, there's no point in dropping this now. There's loads of things like that. There's what's Jeff Grubb, and I know that was mentioned on this podcast before, the idea that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess is being held back for the inevitability that Breath of the Wild 2 gets delayed. It's just like you can sort of see that sort of thinking. When does it make sense to launch these things? But you've also got to think about players. Like, we all want the new thing, we all want those games that we want, but if Nintendo released a load of great the 3D Zelda games on Switch Online, when would I have played them? In my life of gaming, where would I have managed to fit those in? And it's not just about
This is one of the things I was saying on Twitter as well. I had a lot of people replying to me saying, look, Nintendo's got nearly 40 years of history, why don't they just give us it? And it's like, well, no, because if I was sitting here with a Switch, right, and the Switch had on it access to every single NES, SNES, Game Boy Advance, GameCube, N64, Virtual Boy game they've ever released on it, and then they say, here's a new Mario Golf on Switch, I'd be like, well, I don't give a shit. I'm swimming and stuff here, mate. I've got like 7 Mario Golf games to play. Like, I don't. So the people need to remember as well that,
by the way, the opposite was where people go play Mario Golf and then those games would get forgotten about. It was a waste of time putting a lot of time into it. So you can go either way depending on the consumer.
Absolutely.
So,
and it's like these games are a bonus. They're not Not that I'm dismissing them, and like I love. I think it's one of the better features of the Switch is having access to this library of kind of retro games and not having to pay daft money for them. I thought the Virtual Console was far too overpriced, even though there were some kind of classic games in there. Like it favoured the classics and not the kind of the sort of stuff we're getting now, where you would happily pay £6 for Super Mario World, but you would never kind of risk it on a game you'd never heard of.
But you've hit upon the subscription excitement. Like even Xbox haven't put all its games on Game Pass, but the subscription excitement is the ability for people to play things they wouldn't normally play. Like I've got Switch Online, and of course the first things I played was Mario World and Super Metroid and Link to the Past. The same things I always play. But it's the reason why this is exciting is that I can now play different things. I can discover new types of games, and that is what subscribing allows you to do. And that's the difference in subscribing a subscription service and a virtual console. Upon saying that, I'd love some N64 and GameCube games. Thanks, Nintendo.
Yeah.
If you could do that, please.
It's just it's too slow. That's the main issue. Is it's too slow, but. It just frustrates me now. We all agree it's too slow and they should be coming quicker. Yeah. But when the stuff's announced, I just hate that people just don't. People, I think at the end of the article,
it's the internet.
Ended the article in a very pretentious way by saying, try and enjoy these games for what they are rather than moaning at what they aren't. And it's like, yes, we know that Jelly Boy isn't Earthbound, but play it because you might laugh. You might get a kick out of the fact that his belly, a boxing glove comes out his belly and it looks a bit like a willy. Like it's a thoroughly entertaining game. So
you sold it on me. You sold it for me. So,
you might as well have just called it Willy Boy. So like, give it a go.
Willy Belly Boy. Yeah.
Exactly. Try it. You might enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, no harm done. You've not wasted £6-7 on it like you would have done on Virtual Console. And try one of the other 150 or whatever it is now games out there. Like it launched with Demon's Crest, which nobody ever talks about. And it was like a Ghosts and Goblins spin-off where you play as one of the goblins from that. And it's a fantastic game, SNES game, Capcom made game. Nobody ever talks about it. That's like a hidden gem on there. There are at least 20 hidden gems on that service that nobody's talking about because they're all fixated
that's
on.
Like an article for VGC. There we go. There's a listicle for you. If that's the word.
So yeah, all I'm saying is yes, like Dringo says, the games will come. They're taking too long. That everyone agrees with that. But there's 150 odd games on there just now. Try them. Like try the one. We know all the Marios and all the Zeldas are on there, but try Star Tropics or something that you've never played before, and you might be surprised.
Agreed. Can I just say, by the way, on the Nintendo tangent, I'm really enjoying Skyward Sword again. I just am. I'm sorry. Like I know it's popular to dislike it, but I'm really enjoying it. And I've got really used to the button controls personally. It took half an hour a bit jankiness where I kept getting it wrong, but now it's second nature. It's Zelda's great, and I know that's such a simplification, but I tweeted and Dringo actually replied, so it was like this. Zelda, nothing else encapsulates that feeling of every time you've done an area, going back and clicking through the dialogue loop of every single character in the hub world better than a Zelda game does. And I don't know what it is about it, but I'm enjoying it. I've got a fancy new TV for last summer, and it even looks pretty nice on there, if I'm being honest. I think it looks quite nice now. It's nice and crisp, and it looks great. And I was there playing it, and like, why are people so down on this game? They're being far too harsh on it, in my opinion. It's a good game and it's good fun.
I think it was a course correction of the because at the time it was like praised as the second coming, and it released in like 2011. Yeah. It was a standard definition game and a motion control game, like years after those two things were even fun. And then and everyone was giving it 9s and 10s and this sort of stuff. And it wasn't. It's still Zelda. It's still brilliant, but it wasn't that. And then everyone's like, no, it wasn't that good, and they've somehow convinced everyone it's now a 6. And I'm like, well, no, it was a 9.
The thing is, I understand the idea of it not being good on the motion controls, but playing now the button controls, it is a good game. It is fundamentally very charming, and the music's beautiful, and the areas and the characters are fun, and the dungeons are very, very, very engaging. I was sat there just doing the whole play for another 10 more minutes, and I just think it's a lot better than people give it credit for. And the idea, I've seen some people review it, and they're acting like it's exactly the same game as it was back then. It isn't. It feels vastly better, in my opinion. And I'm just really enjoying it. And anyone who's a Zelda fan, they should play it. And it feels fresh to me again. And even though I recognise some of the puzzles, it does feel fresh to me.
I do for me, I do wonder if it's because back then, like we wait 5 years for a new Zelda game, 5-6 years, and we get one, and it's not quite, it's you're flying, and I can imagine some people going, this isn't the Zelda I wanted, and I waited so long for it, and I'm gonna have to wait so long for the next one. I can understand why there might be a bit of that frustration, but going back to it, we don't have that frustration anymore. It's just a bonus Zelda as we wait for the next one.
I also think part of it was there was a kind of disconnect back then. Is that I think a lot of critics were still kind of more accepting of motion controls, but back then. But by that point, I think a lot of the so-called hardcore following had totally turned their back on motion controls altogether, and had basically resorted to the internet trope of shouting "waggle" every time a new Wii game was announced. So I think although it was getting really high scores, I think a lot of the kind of general game playing public had already gone off motion controls, and I think the resentment
imagine if
kind of
Twitter was a
followed.
thing. Imagine if Twitter was a thing back then.
Yeah.
It'd also gone off Wii.
Thing, but...
Like the Wii at that point, it was a year before the Wii U launched.
Yeah.
It was on its knees. It was dead.
Yeah,
Dying anyway, and so it actually, it's a Zelda game. Zelda games never get to number 1 in the UK. I say that, the last 2 have, but it got to number 7. It was like didn't even beat the games that had been out weeks and weeks and weeks at that point. It was a very weak launch, very lack of interest in it, and it was out of touch. But it's still a Zelda game, and it's brilliant. So,
That's it. That's it, and there's nothing quite like a Zelda game. There really isn't. There's something about the charm. It's reminded me, like, it's been a long time, and obviously Breath of the Wild was a few years ago now. Just playing Skyward Sword again, it's more traditional Zelda. I don't know. It's lovely. It's a big cuddle of a game, and it really is, and I love it. And it's the reason these games are just so popular. And I would say you go check out Chris's review as well. They'll be on screen at the end of this video.
VGN.
It's a really good review. Sorry.
Yeah, it was. I saw it. I saw Nintendo using a quote from the review in their promotion, and they called it VGN rather than VGC.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a kick in the teeth. Cheers, Shigeru. You don't.
Although I then get the opposite the other day. Like someone from Nintendo of America wanted to use a quote because they always kind of basically when you get quotes put on things like this, often you're asked if it's okay because obviously for ethical purposes and that, and they said is it okay if we use a quote saying it's a must-have game, and I was like, yeah, fine, go for it. And then they go back and said, are you okay if we change the case so that must-have doesn't have capital letters? I'm like, do you want? It's the first time I've ever been asked that. Can we change this from uppercase to lowercase? It's like, well, yeah, I don't care that much. I'm not that precious.
You care that much about your capitalisation.
Exactly.
But either way,
Scum.
it's scum. Yeah, it's not the grammatical format. Go on.
I was just going to say, I did tell one of my writers, I said, I'll never admit this on a end of year podcast, but I can pretty much guarantee that deep down my favourite game of this year will be Skyward Sword. And even though I don't want to admit that to anybody, because I just love Zelda. I love Zelda games so much that I can guarantee you there's nothing I will play this year that I'll enjoy more than this game, even though there will be better games.
So much fun.
I just won't admit it. I won't admit it when we do the end of year.
I know exactly what you mean. It's that whole literally, because I found myself sat last night and I was doing I've just done Lanyaro Desert, so I've got to the bit where I've just done I did the whole dungeon. Like I started at midnight and played over. What am I doing? It's 1 a.m. But I was like, back up to the island, the Skyloft again. Oh, we've got to do the bit where you move the fans around to get the the island. Then you go into the Thunderhead bit, and I was like, why am I carrying on playing? It's so immersive. But it's Zelda. I bloody love Zelda.
Well, like Dringo says, there'll be better games this year, but there's a difference between what you think was the best game of the year and what you think was your favourite game of the year. There will be games that technically are better, but they don't make you feel the same, and that's the thing.
It Takes Two's up there for me still. Genuinely, like I had insurmountable levels of joy with playing with a partner with that. It's just great fun. Anyway, we've been waffling for an hour and 10 minutes. Thank you for watching or listening to the VGC Off the Record. Thank you to the guests, the two Christophers, the man behind the numbers, Chris Ringo, and the title hack himself, Christopher Scullion. Go check out the article, Chris's piece about the Switch Online service, and let us know down in the comments on YouTube your thoughts on all of today's topics. And don't forget to give us a like or whatever, or rating over on the major podcast providers. Thank you so much for watching. Head over to videogameschronicle.com for all the articles on today's topics, and we'll see you next week.